Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new indie authors. Find us on all major podcast systems and YouTube. Join B Alan Bourgeois on today's show.
Howdy, and welcome to a special edition of the Indie Beacon Show. I am with Happy Fellows, who is a musician, and we are going to be talking about his music and what he has done and created. First off, welcome, Happy. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. We're glad to finally get you on our show. Obviously, the first question, a lot of people are going to say, Happy Fellows. Where did that name come from? So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I don't know. I have this, belief that there's always counterbalance in life, and it's kind of that yin and yang thing. So I'm kind of a firm believer, and I want my music to sort of express the idea that no matter what you're going through in life, if you're going through kind of a hard time in life, there's always going to be happy. Happy has to follow the bad times, or we wouldn't know what bad times are. There would be nothing to compare it to. So I just like that message of, happiness is always going to follow some, so like kind of stick with it, stick to your guns, and, good times will come.
Okay. That sounds like a very reasonable aspect of life and stuff, and it's very true, the yin and yang of life and stuff. So with your music then, how do you describe your music?
That's a tough question. I don't know. Maybe I should ask you that question. I consider myself a singer-songwriter. I'm playing the stuff that I write. Sometimes I tell people it's kind of like alt folk, alternative folk. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have a definition for it. It kind of, whatever comes out and however you want to label that is fine with me.
Well, I would definitely say art folky, or definitely folk oriented, is definitely something that could fit. For you, you've got 2 albums out, but you've been doing this for a while. When did you start writing music?
I have written that, like, dabbled in writing probably for 20, 25 years, and haven't really written very much. And always kind of struggled with the idea of writing. And a couple years ago, I left my day job, which was in a creative field as well. And I kind of feel like a lot of weight just came off me there. And I just kind of just went to town, and it became much easier to write, and like just a lot sort of just pouring out. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it's just, it's something that I've been doing for a long time, but I spent a lot of years doing a lot of covers and playing a lot of other people's music.
Do you remember the first song you wrote?
I do. I actually, the first, like, probably, I'm sure there has been many more before that, but first finished song is actually on the latest album as a demo. There's actually 2 versions of it, and one was written in around 1992, right after my father had passed away. I actually wrote it for him. It's a song called Fishing. So that was probably the earliest one I remember writing that was actually a finished song. And I decided to put that on this latest album just as a demo.
Okay. In particular reason why you decided to put both versions on, as far as the demo versus the finished?
Not really, not a particular reason. I actually both versions, I labeled them on this album as demos, because the song did change quite a bit. I don't even remember the year that the second one was, but the second version, or the later version of the song, I wanted that one to go on the album only because at the time that was rewritten and recorded, my daughter, who's a special needs forever child, I call her. She is really just she has like a physiological response to music. It just makes, I mean, it's joyous to watch. And she, at the time, she's 23 now, but at the time she was quite a bit younger, and she would spend time with me in my studio. And you didn't think she was, but she was paying attention. And so I said, well, how about you sing this with me? And she sang that particular song, and we recorded it. And I don't know, just some magic happened there for me. So she's the Kate S featured on that song, and that's a really precious version for me, special version, because she no longer, she's older now, and for whatever reason she doesn't want to sit and sing anymore. So it's I kind of cherish that moment.
Yeah, it's kind of growing up moment.
Yeah,
that's great. Your first album was called The Huntsman. Why did you call it The Huntsman? And tell us a little bit about the first album.
The Woodsman. Yeah, I mean, like if you listen to the there's a little bit of a theme going through that, not kind of intentionally, but not not specifically, I guess. But it's the idea of sort of the lost soul, and that person trying to find their way in life. And I don't want it to sound cliche, but just this idea that there's this woodsman who's searching for a better life or a better life after life in the woods, kind of lost in the woods, and the struggles that they go through, and the the wins that they find in life.
And that goes back to your happy aspect of Ying and Yang and stuff, going through the struggles and then coming out with the wins, as you said.
Yeah. Just coming, knowing that there's eventually always going to be something that's good that's going to come out of bad.
Okay. I want to ask you about your newest album, but we'll hold that for the second session or second segment. Are you currently working on anything else?
I am committed to writing an EP this next time, so it won't be a full. And I just started. It won't be a full length album, just because that commitment is, there's a bit of a commitment there. And I put out the two albums pretty close together and pretty quick, at least for me, considering, I talked about my 20 some years of songwriting, and I probably wrote the most of it in the last year and a half to 2 years.
Okay. This is a perfect spot for us to stop, let our sponsors do their thing, and we'll be right back.
Marianne Fairmouth is a career consultant with 30 years experience in the national recruiting world, a multi-award-winning author in multi-genres, and a speaker that gives presentations to help you succeed. Her book, Revolutionary Recruiting, made the top 20 global list of recruiting books. Find her on Amazon, your favorite bookstore, or at fairmouth.com.
Hello, I am the author Denise Bryson. My first book is The Things That Cross My Mind, Inspirational Poetry with Life Lessons. And then my audio book is Love's Reality. And it is also inspirational poetry with a jazzy flair. And then my new book is The Sex, the Lies, and the Soul Ties. They're really short stories written from a poetic expression. And then I have my first children book series, the Blinky series, which the first book is called Meet the Coins, and it is both in English and Spanish. And then the new book, From Coins to Bills. I am the author, Denise Bryson.
To embrace your children's imagination, check out Diane Floyd Bame's books for kids. There's The Moonling Adventures, all about the animals in the Serengeti. And then there's Harry the Camel, learning to love yourself just the way you are. Then The Little Girl in the Moon. There's one about friendship, another one about the big ideas, which is an inspirational story, and then Tour Tycho Town, right there in Tycho Crater on the moon. All of Diane Floyd Bain's books are available at B4R store.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new indie authors. Find us on all major podcast systems and YouTube. Join B Alan Bourgeois on today's show.
And welcome back. This is your host, B Alan Bourgeois. You are watching or listening to the Indie Beacon Show, and we appreciate you doing that. Today we have with us Happy Fellows, who is a musician. And if you not realizing it and you're watching the show, you've already heard some of his music because he does our intro. He has written a song specifically, or not lyrics, but just the music aspect for our show. And we appreciate that immensely. How did you get inspired with that particular one? I know I gave you a little bit of a suggestion, but I mean, it was your own inspiration to create it. So tell us a little bit of how that came out.
Yeah, that's a tough one because the music aspect for me is the harder part of writing. Like I love writing lyrics and I love writing the music too, but I'm not I don't consider myself a trained musician. I play, mostly by ear. And so it's important for me to, it was good that you kind of gave me, a target, definitely, because even for me, all music has to evoke some kind of emotion. I know, again, that sounds pretty cliche, but like certainly you want to elicit some kind of response from someone, whether that's happy or sad or anger or whatever that is. So I mean, I think for that I was just kind of riffing off how you described what you were looking for.
Something happy and cheerful.
Happy and cheerful, yeah. And hopefully you feel like you got happy and cheerful.
Yes. You have a second album that, as you mentioned earlier, has come out recently, and it is The Life of the World to Come. So tell us a little bit about that and how you came up with that name.
Yep. So that is actually the last line from a creed or a prayer that, it's just the idea that, again, in the end, hopefully we're all going to go to someplace good, and it's and the life, no matter what the struggles are that we have here, I'm a believer that I'm hopeful that whatever that next life is, or whatever you believe is, what happens after we pass this world, that it's going to be a better place, so like just the idea that there's going to be a better place, and I hope that we all get there.
Okay, so that is in essence all the songs that are on there in different ways, going from, again, the negative to positive aspect.
Yeah, I mean, they're not, like I said, they're not all intentionally written to that, but they all kind of fit because that's just kind of what's in my head, in the moment. The idea of, again, back to similar to the first album. In some ways, interestingly enough, I think this second album might be slightly a little darker than the first album, but still, in the end, I think it's, I want the messages to be positive ones. So I think that I try to make the songs resolve into something that's, real. I mean, struggles that people go through in life are real, and you don't want to like sugarcoat it, but trying to see like the bright light in the darkness, I guess.
Okay. You, because of COVID, of course, you couldn't go into a studio and record other than what you have at home, but you have worked with a lot of musicians from across the world to develop both of these albums. What was that like?
That was an amazing experience for me. Just to back up a little bit and tell you a little bit about you know, my musical journey. So it's something, you know, I've been at, it's always been my secret ambition to do this in life, but I've also been a person that suffers from stage fright, like terrible stage fright. Like you know, even doing this interview makes me, you know, makes me nervous. So I spent a lot of my time doing this alone with myself, and the great thing about that is, you know, you don't have a critic other than yourself. But the bad thing about that is you don't have a critic or other, you know, other than yourself. So, you know, at times you can really beat yourself down, or sometimes you can build yourself up better than, you know, you should be. And so I just found a platform that gave me the opportunity to work with what I'm finding is a bunch of people like me that, you know, maybe aspire, maybe they have been in bands or played, you know, played with other folks. But just playing with other people has made me personally so much better. It's been so amazing, and they truly have been people, you know, all over the world. I've not met a single person that's played on either one of my albums in person. And you know, they kind of span the globe. But like I said, like I had like an amazing bass player that has played on almost every song, who is an older gentleman from France, somewhere in France. And then the drummer that has been awesome to work with. He is in, I can never remember if it's Alabama, somewhere in the middle of the US. And, you know, so then various people elsewhere. So like, that's just been really nice because, you know, it's like anything. Now I'm quite comfortable with it, and I don't mind sharing. But before I was like, it was so hard to share that first song out there and, you know, hope that someone was going to want to work with you. But now I kind of honed it into a, you know, group of musicians that I have continued to just work with, and it's been really wonderful. I actually, I don't mean to ramble, but I actually had a promise to myself when I turned 50, and I won't tell you how many years ago that was, or maybe it hasn't happened yet, but that I would go do like an open mic somewhere, just to get like someplace far where I, like, you know, no one knows me, and if I bomb, you know, it's no big deal. But that was still during the time that I was mostly playing other folks' music. Now I think I would feel very comfortable going and doing it if it was my music, because you kind of know, that music. The problem with that is no one else knows it, potentially.
So here's a question for you. COVID, unfortunately, well, thankfully, is ending its reign on us, and we're getting out more and more to human life as we once knew it. So that means your job, because you work in the creative field for corporations and businesses, is becoming more busier, and thus you have less time to do music. But between the two, your creative aspect of working in designs and stuff like that versus the music, which would you prefer to do the most?
Oh God, there's no, hopefully none of my clients will be watching this, but there's no contest there. You know, that's music. You know, I mean, I had the cliche dream of being the rock star since I was a you know, wee little kid, and that has not left my body, so, or my mind. So yeah, there's definitely no contest there. If I could, you know, make a living doing it full time, absolutely would do that.
So I'm going to ask this question that you weren't prepared for, and hopefully you'll still answer for me. There are a lot of contests out there that are designed for musicians, whether it be singers or actual lyricists or whatever. They're all geared for the younger generations because they want to invest their time and money into them and get their money back over years and years and years. Do you feel that if there was something for the baby boomers and the generation before them, that there would be really some really great stuff coming out?
Yeah, funny you should say that. I actually thought about that quite a bit. It's like, wouldn't that be a great idea, a spin on, kind of what they've kind of beat a dead horse with on television, those the singing contest. But what if it was, because those shows, they get down to some just amazingly talented people. But what if it was, people like, I consider myself a little rough around the edges and stuff, but, kind of later in life, trying to make it in a, kind of trying to live an early dream. To me, that would be an interesting show. I would absolutely try out for that.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you answering that. And with that, we're going to stop, let our sponsors do their thing, and we'll be right back.
Publishing marketing package for authors. A $1,500 value, save 40% now. Includes a 6-piece marketing kit of 250 bookmarks, 250 business cards, 250 postcards, 1 table banner, 1 table runner, and 50 download cards, plus book cover design, ebook creation, PDF setups, upload to Ingram Spark, scroll placement, video commercial, and interview on IBS, plus much more. Email bourgeoismedia@look.com for details or bourgeoismedia.com.
Hi, I'm Mel Greenberg, author of Running with Our Eyes Closed, book 1 in the Empty Nested series. To the world, Samantha has the perfect life. 3 wonderful children, a loving husband, so she thought, and a life split between Dallas and Italy. When her youngest leaves for college, it all comes crashing down, forcing Samantha to re-examine everything. Over 7 days in one of the most romantic countries in the world, Samantha faces the past she thought she'd overcome and begins to redefine her role as a woman, a wife, and a mother.
What would you do if you had to put your life on hold to care for a loved one? Well, during COVID, almost all of us have been doing just that. I'm Charlotte Canyon, award-winning author, actress, and speaker. And my book, You Have to Laugh to Keep from Crying, shows you how you can revive, thrive, and survive with 4 golden rules. You have to love one another. You have to respect one another. You have to have patience with one another. And most of all, you've got to forgive one another. I'm Charlotte Canyon, and I approve this message.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new indie authors. Find us on all major podcast systems and YouTube. Join B Alan Bourgeois on today's show.
And welcome back. This is your host, B Alan Bourgeois, and you have just listened to a sample of Happy Fellow's lyrics for our opening, which is Frolic of Words. That is the title he gave that. If you want to hear and samples and stuff like that, you can go to the bookstore website, b4r.store. Look under music for Happy Fellows, and there's a video of from his first album, as well as his first album. We'll hopefully have his second album up there shortly, and you can hear samples from there and also purchase it on the various formats that are available, Apple and all the others. With that in mind, Happy, tell us how people can follow you, what's your website, social media, all that fun stuff.
Sure, I'm on all the major ones. So my website is happyfollows.com, and you can get to all the social platforms from there as well too. I'm mainly pay attention to Instagram and Facebook. So on Instagram, I'm Happy Follows Music, and Facebook, it's just Happy Follows.
Okay. So we mentioned previously you're not going to have time to really work on anything, but are there ideas brewing in your head that you want to work on in some way?
There are. I don't have like any concept ideas yet. But I do have a bunch of music ideas, just so I haven't worked on any lyrics yet, but like I said, this next release, I'm pretty committed to it being just an EP. So it's probably just going to be a handful of maybe 4 or 5 songs, and then I'll release. And that's kind of the beauty of today's music market. I could even just do a song. I could release a song at a time, and don't have to worry about. I'm still, I'm kind of old school. I still like the idea of packaging it up in an album. But that is becoming less important to people, to listeners.
Yeah, I admit I enjoy just picking one song from an album and downloading it and then moving on. We're almost out of time. So for somebody, whether they be young or older, who is kind of playing with the idea of doing music, or whether it's writing lyrics or the notes or whatever, what words of advice would you give them?
I'll pass on what someone gave me, and I can't even remember who it was. As I said earlier, that I spent a lot of years just playing other people's music, and I think that you can learn a lot by doing that, particularly if you're trying to figure out some pretty complex stuff. But in the end, I heard someone say, and I kind of didn't know what they meant by it, but then I kind of figured it out that you're not really creating if you're playing other people's creations. And so that kind of stuck with me, and I said, okay, I got to start writing my own stuff. And sharing it, because I spent a lot of years like doing that and not sharing it. And the sharing aspect was the hardest thing for me, but like, you got to share it, because, and regardless of, with the outcome of that, realize that you'll find your audience. And this was another piece of advice. Sometimes your audience, and this is true of any kind of art, is not always going to be your friends and family. So don't, if you get a flat response from friends and family, just chalk it up to like, it's not their thing, but it might be someone else's thing. So just keep going, just keep sharing. Again, that's the beauty of, the world we live in. You have access to putting out your art to anyone in the world. So there's going to be someone out there, more than one probably, that's going to like what you do.
Very true. And that applies for all types of art, whether it's written, music, or paintings and drawings, sculptures, whatever it is. It applies to all of it. Well, I want to thank you very much for being with the show. We wish you the best of luck, and we look forward to hopefully hearing something new from you in the near future.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Thank you for watching or listening to the Indie Beacon Show, produced by B Alan Bourgeois for the Authors Marketing International LLC. Copyright 2021. Voiceover by B Alan Bourgeois. If you would like to be a sponsor of the show, please email us at authorsmarketing@outlook.com. If you would like to be on the show, please complete the form found on our website at indiebeacon.com. You may also watch previous year's shows on the website. Music is Frolic of Words, created for Indie Beacon